I turned 18 in our small blue house on Maple Street, a corner of America that always smelled like fresh-cut grass and rain on pavement. The porch sagged a little, the door stuck in summer, and the floorboards and the hallway learned the sound of each of us. My dad, Mark, heavy and sure. My mom, Linda, quick and careful. My sister, Emily, clicking through in shoes she never scuffed. And me, the girl who counted steps and saved receipts. Grandma Ruth came early, wearing her pearl earrings and the red scarf she said made her brave. She hugged me so tight I could feel the bones in her hands, then pressed a thick envelope into my palm. "College," she said in a steady voice. $110, 000 for your mind and your future. My heart banged like a drum. I stared at the number and felt the house tilt, as if a new floor had just been built under my feet. We had cake at the kitchen table that faced the backyard fence my dad painted every other spring. The frosting was soft, and the plates were mismatched. Mark told one of his long jokes, and Linda tried to keep the knife from scraping the pan. Emily scrolled on her phone, her nails shining like tiny mirrors. Her husband, Jake, stood by the window. He was polite and jumpy, always checking his pockets, always borrowing a pen. I caught him glance at the envelope like it was a bright bird that might fly away. "What will you study?" he asked, and I said I wasn't sure yet. Maybe literature, maybe economics, maybe a little of both, because I wanted to learn how stories and numbers fit together. I said I could see myself in Chicago or maybe New York, both places that felt like open doors. "America is big," Grandma said, "but your life is bigger." After the dishes, I carried the envelope upstairs to my room, the one with the window over the oak tree and a poster of Lake Michigan on the wall. I opened the flap and touched each crisp bill like they were notes in a song I did not know yet, but would learn by heart. I put most of the money in a folder, then wrote down a plan in neat lines: application fees, deposits, used books, a laptop that did not freeze, rent for a small room near the campus, and bus cards to keep me moving. I added a part-time job at a library or a bakery, anywhere with kind lights and clean counters. I told myself I would call Grandma each week and read something new each night. I stood at the window and thought about the lake in Chicago, the way wind cuts the cold and the sky opens like a curtain. I thought about Europe too, the word itself like a road, but I knew I would start here in America with the money Ruth had given me and the promise she had tied around it. The house creaked in the familiar way it did when the heat came on. Downstairs, I could hear Linda running water and Mark closing the garage door. Emily laughed at something on her phone, a bright, thin sound. Jake paced, the floorboards telling on him. I tried to picture my life without this house and could not. The porch, the chipped paint, the steady hum of the fridge were all stitched into my skin. Still, the envelope glowed in my desk like a lighthouse. I slipped it into the bottom drawer under my notebooks, then tucked the key on a string around my neck. Before bed, I wrote a short thank you card to Grandma, simple words for a huge thing. "You believed in me. I will not waste this." I sealed it and set it by my shoes, ready for the mailbox in the morning. Not knowing that morning would bring a storm I could not yet name. The next morning, the small blue house in America felt crowded, like the walls had leaned in overnight. I woke to low voices and the smell of strong coffee. When I stepped into the kitchen, my mom, Linda, was already sitting at the table with her hands wrapped around an empty mug. My dad, Mark, stared at a folded piece of paper as if it could change if he looked hard enough. My sister, Emily, stood by the fridge, arms crossed. Her husband, Jake, kept shifting from foot to foot. The light through the back window made pale squares on the floor. It felt like a stage where everyone knew their lines but me. "Sit down, honey," Mom said. Her smile was thin. I sat. The chair creaked the same way it did on quiet nights when I did homework. Dad tapped the paper twice, then cleared his throat. "We need to talk about the money," he said. "The $110,000 Ruth gave you." The envelope was upstairs in my desk, locked away, but I could feel it here, like a heartbeat under the table. Emily looked at me with sharp eyes. Jake watched the floor. Mom reached across and brushed my wrist. "Your sister and Jake are in trouble," she said. "Serious trouble. There are people calling. There are letters. He owes $86,000. If we pay it now, it goes away. We can be a family again, without fear at the door." Jake lifted his face a little. He looked younger than usual, scared and sorry at the same time. "I'll pay you back," he said. "I swear. I just need a clean slate." Emily's voice came fast. "It's not a big deal. You still have plenty for school. You can start later. People take a gap year all the time." She said the words gap year like they were a pretty scarf she wanted me to try on. I looked at the refrigerator covered in old photos. There I was, missing a tooth in 2nd grade. There was Grandma Ruth last winter, shoulders straight, pearl earrings bright. I could almost hear her voice. "Use this for your mind. Build something that lasts." The house was quiet in that heavy way that means the next word matters. I said, "Grandma gave the money for college. She told me that with her own hands. I can't use it for anything else." Dad's jaw set like a locked door. "We're asking you to do the right thing," he said. "This is family." Mom nodded. "You're under our roof," she added. "We need you to help keep it steady." Jake finally met my eyes. "I made mistakes," he said. "I thought I could fix them. I couldn't. Please." He had always been polite in our house, the man who brought flowers for holidays and 8 seconds to be nice to Linda. I wanted to soften. I wanted the room to breathe again. But I also saw the future standing behind him, holding a stack of books, holding a student ID, holding a key to a dorm room in Chicago. I felt the weight of each dollar and each hope tied to it. I thought of New York and the tall libraries there. I thought of Europe as one big word on a far map, waiting for some later day. I thought of America right now and the path that was finally mine. The right word rose like a small, steady flame. "No," I said. It was quiet, but it stood on its own feet. "I'm sorry for the trouble. I don't want anyone knocking at our door. But Grandma wanted this money to take me to college. I won't break that promise." Emily's face flushed red. "So you'll let us drown?" she said. "You'd rather chase some city than help your own blood?" Dad pushed back his chair, and its scrape cut the air. "If you choose yourself over your family," he said, "don't expect us to fix what comes next." Mom looked like she might cry, and that hurt worst of all. I stood because my legs needed to. My voice shook, but it stayed clear. "I'm choosing the plan we all heard Ruth bless. I'll work. I'll live small. I'll make every dollar count. But I won't pay for Jake's past with my future." No one spoke. The house waited. Outside, a mail truck hissed to stop. I pictured my thank you card to Grandma riding toward her street, simple words that now felt brave. "You believed in me. I will not waste this." I touched the key on the cord around my neck and felt its cool edge. "I'm going to the library," I said. "I need quiet to think." I stepped onto the porch, and the cold morning touched my face. The neighborhood was the same, but the road to Chicago felt closer, like a line I could almost reach with my hand. I packed at midnight while the small blue house in America slept, the vents humming and the hallway clock keeping patient time. I folded 2 pairs of jeans, 3 shirts, a wool sweater Grandma Ruth once mended with pale thread, and the photo of her laughing beside the back fence. I slid my notebooks into my backpack and tucked the envelope deep inside, the $110,000 a steady weight against my ribs. Before I left, I stood in my doorway and memorized the ordinary, the stubborn window latch, the poster of Lake Michigan, the line in the paint where Mark had once moved my bed. I kissed my fingers and touched the doorframe like it was a promise. The streets were silver with frost. I walked to the station and bought a bus ticket to Chicago for $62 in cash, the bills soft from being counted. The coach smelled like coffee and cold wool. A man named Robert nodded, as if he recognized the leaving I carried. A woman named Clara helped lift my bag and told me she was visiting her sister near the water. Outside, America unrolled in long, quiet miles, dark fields, lonely barns, the lace of winter trees. Somewhere farther on, Europe glimmered in my mind like a later chapter, a someday bright with museums and trains, but today belonged to this road and this choice. By noon, I was stepping onto city pavement, the air sharp enough to make my eyes water. I found a handwritten sign, "Room for rent," taped to a corner store window. The landlord, a practical woman named Nora, showed me a narrow room on the second floor, small bed, brass lamp, a window with a slice of sky. Her old dog, Leo, watched me from a blanket like a judge who'd seen it all. $600 a month, Nora said, half now. I counted out $300 and promised the rest on Friday. No drama, no loud music, she added. I can do quiet, I said, and the words felt like a new key turning. I opened a bank account at a branch near the train. The clerk, a patient man named Thomas, explained interest like a gentle lesson. I set up 2 pockets, one for living, one for school. I moved $28,400 into a folder labeled tuition, so I couldn't touch it by accident, then bought a prepaid phone for $49 and a transit card for $25. At the market, I spent $7 on bread, peanut butter, and a small jar of jam. On the back of a flyer, I drew a budget like a clean path. Rent $600, groceries $40 a week, transportation $20, an emergency cushion for the days that never warn you before they arrive. I promised myself I would track every dollar like a footprint in new snow. Work came from a sign in a bakery window, help wanted, and a manager named Daniel who liked people who arrived early and left late. He hired me for morning shifts at $14 an hour, starting the next day. I learned the ovens, the racks, and the voice of the register. Regulars taught me their names. Mr. Collins tipped $1 and told jokes that took 4 stops to land. Jenna saved singles in a glass jar and counted out quarters with care. Ben, a shy student, ordered 2 cinnamon rolls and whispered thanks like it might break. Flour dusted my sleeves and made me look, for a moment, like winter had chosen me. At night, I walked the lake path and called Grandma for my new number. I'm safe, I told her. Room, job, budget. She said, keep your mind bright and your pockets honest. Back in my room, I emailed the college, paid a $2,000 deposit, and set reminders for deadlines. Then my phone filled with missed calls from Linda and Mark, and a message from Emily that said I was cruel. I read it twice and put the phone face down. I pictured our blue house, the porch light, the dent in the hallway, the refrigerator covered with photos, and my chest ached the way muscles do when they grow. I wrote them a note I did not send. I love you. I am not selling my future to pay for Jake's past. There are other answers. Payment plans, extra shifts, things you can sell that are not a person's chance. I will come home to visit when the air between us is quiet again. Then I folded the paper and tucked it under Grandma's photograph. The city breathed around me. Sirens far off, buses sighing at corners, a neighbor named Maria humming through a wall. I turned out the lamp and lay down in the narrow bed, the envelope locked away, the key warm against my collarbone. I was afraid. I was ready. I had not bought peace with dollars. I was building it, hour by hour, toward a door with my name on it. The first week of classes in Chicago felt like new air in my lungs. The campus was wide and busy, and the lake threw cold light at the buildings like a dare. I kept my head down and my notebooks open. In the mornings, I worked at the bakery for $14 an hour with Daniel, then took the train to lectures. At night, I read until my eyes blurred. My favorite class was a small seminar with Professor Harris, a quiet man with kind questions. He wrote, "Good, clear mind," at the top of my first paper and drew a small star. I took a photo of it and sent it to Grandma Ruth. She replied with 3 words, "I knew it." Back in Nora's house, the narrow room grew into a home. Leo the dog started sleeping by my door, and Nora taught me how to make soup that could stretch $6 across 3 days. I made my budget a small game. Rent stayed $600 because I paid on time. Groceries stayed near $40 each week because I planned meals and avoided the candy aisle. I put $50 a month into a little envelope marked future. I learned the bakery rush times and the quiet times, when Mr. Collins told jokes and left his usual $1 tip, when Jenna counted quarters into her jar, when Ben stuttered and then smiled because the cinnamon rolls were still warm. Every time I logged into my bank account and saw the tuition folder sitting safe at $28,400, I felt a thread in my chest untangle. The calls from home did not stop. Linda left messages that came in like weather. Some were soft. Call me, honey. I miss your voice. Some were hard. We can't live like this, waiting for the phone to ring. Mark's words were shorter, heavier. You made a choice. So did we. Emily's messages were sharp and fast. She said I had left her to deal with Jake's mess, that I cared more about books than blood. I listened to each one once. Then I wrote a script for myself and read it out loud before I called back. I love you. I am going to college. I will not pay $86,000 for Jake. There are other paths. When I spoke those lines, my voice learned to stand without shaking. One night, after my last class, I walked along the lake and dialed Grandma. The wind came off the water like a firm hand. I feel mean, I told her. They say I turned my back on the house. She let the silence sit until it felt honest. You didn't turn your back, she said. You turned your face toward your life. That house will still be there. Houses want people to grow. It keeps their beams from sagging. I laughed, a small laugh that made my throat hurt. What if they never forgive me? I asked. Forgiveness is slower than anger, she said. But it shows up with a better suitcase. At midterms, I added up everything I had done since the day I left. I had paid the $2,000 deposit on time. I kept a steady C in statistics and a strong A in literature. I had put $300 into the future envelope and not touched it. I had not missed a single shift. I sent Nora $50 extra as a thank you for taking me in with only half the first month paid. I wrote Linda a letter in simple words and mailed it with a photo of the star on my paper. I wrote to Mark about the broken step on our porch, asking him to send me a picture when he fixed it. I told Emily that I would listen if she wanted to talk about work, plans, or anything that did not begin with $86,000. A week later, an envelope arrived with my name in Linda's neat hand. Inside was a photo of the house, our small blue house in America, with the porch step repaired and the winter light sitting on the fence. On the back she had written, "We are painting in spring. Bring your coat. No apology. No new demands. Just a door left unlatched." I held the picture by the window of Nora's place and let myself cry for exactly 5 minutes. Then I set it next to Grandma's photo so the two houses, the one of wood and the one in my mind, could talk to each other. When the semester ended, Professor Harris shook my hand and said, "You kept your promise to yourself." I thought of the envelope Grandma pressed into my palms on my birthday, the $110,000 that had felt like a lighthouse I had to carry. I still had miles to walk and bills to pay. I still had calls to answer and bridges to rebuild. But the choice had stuck. I had not bought peace with dollars. I was making it, line by line, with work and study and small, steady acts. On the way home, I passed a bookstore with a window full of paperbacks and a little sign about jobs. I snapped a photo to ask Daniel if I could add a Saturday shift there too. The lake wind caught my hair. Europe stayed a bright word for some later page. America was this street, this city, this next step. I put my hand on the photo of our house in my coat pocket, and I kept walking,